is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, and today we're talking about my minimal gaming setup that I think looks gorgeous. The reason I wanted to set this up is because I normally game on an ultra-wide monitor that's 1440p, so it's actually like super hard on my PC to run what I'm trying to do, and I really wanted to try an OLED monitor, which this is. Before I actually get into the specs of everything, this is just anecdotal evidence. I play a lot of Apex, but I've realized in the past few days, I've hit multiple games where I've hit 2,500 plus damage in a single game and 7, 8, 9 plus kills in a single game, which never really happens to me, and I've been able to do it consistently. So I don't know if this is the reason, but it's definitely, in my opinion, helped my game. So we'll start off with the basics, the monitor. This is an LG 27-inch, 240 hertz, 1440p monitor. It has some dumb name, so I'll put it in the link, put the link in the description for everything, but the monitor will be down there too. This thing is absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. I'm really not a big fan of gamer-y monitors, so like Alienware where they put their big logo on the front, or when there's RGB lights. This has none of that. So if you like that kind of thing, this is perfect for you. It has super thin bezels, like the actual panel you're looking at is super, super thin. The bezels around the edge of the panel are super thin. And I think this is all because the actual brains of the monitor, LG actually fit them into this like bump or bulge in the back of the panel that you can't see from the front. So from the front and even kind of from the side, it looks super thin, super modern and minimal and super high end, which is perfect. Interestingly enough, the monitor stand is actually super good too, in my opinion. I have like Herman Miller super high-end monitor arms, but I find myself sticking with just the normal stand here because it's kind of fine. It's really thin, minimal. There's a little bit of branding on it for their like LG Ultra Gear type thing, but honestly, doesn't bother me. It's this kind of like black, gray, metallic-y looking texture, which fits the rest of the setup, so I've just kind of kept it. Now, of course, if you do want to change that, it is a VESA mount on the monitor, so you can change it out to basically any monitor arm that supports VESA. So that's a good option too if you want that. The other thing is this monitor arm. One of the monitors I was looking at was the studio display. I wanted to do like a different setup with that. This monitor arm for $600 actually gives you all the options the studio display charges you $400 for. So you can do tilt, you can do height adjustment, you can kind of adjust it however you want. It doesn't tilt like this way, if that makes sense, but you can do all the other adjustments that you want to get it to the perfect height for your viewership. The downside that I found with this specific like monitor arm though, is that it doesn't have a place to route the cables. This actual like thing here is pretty thick, so I thought that they'd have some sort of like internal channel where you could route the cables through, which in my opinion is how they should have done it. They don't. Instead, they include like a little clip-on attachment you can put on the back of the arm or on back of the stand so you can route cables through it. It's a really weird placement though, because if you don't have the monitor at the maximum height, you can't really route the cables through it in any way that makes sense. So they're just kind of drooping there for me, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I think they should have routed it through the actual stand itself. Now, besides the bezels, the panel actually is super, super beautiful. It says anti-glare, anti-gloss like effect on their website, but I found it's almost like a glossy monitor with anti-glare applied that still makes it look glossy, if that makes sense. I'm actually a big fan of glossy monitors, so for me, it works out, but it's just enough anti-glare where it works, but it still looks premium and high-end because of the gloss finish, I think. Maybe it's just my eyes, it still looks kind of glossy to me compared to my ultra-wide monitor, which is very matte. The monitor itself supports 2 HDMI inputs, a DisplayPort input, and 2 USB. There is no USB-C on this monitor, so you can't do like a single cable from the monitor to your MacBook if you wanted to hook this up to something that wasn't a gaming PC, but I'm not using it for that use case, so it works. One of the other things to note is that this monitor comes with a remote, which I thought was interesting. So you can control the volume, the brightness, the input, basically everything you could from the buttons on the bottom. You can basically do that from the remote if you want to. I thought this was an interesting addition. I've never had a monitor come with a remote before. I don't really know what the use case would be because I'm like sitting at it. Real quick, editor Brian here. The more that I use this remote, it is super useful. I use it all the time to switch inputs between like my MacBook and PC and turn it off, turn it on. Remote's great. Past Brian was dumb for saying there was no use for it. Okay, back to the video. I have found this useful because I'm really bad about turning my monitors off, and because this is an OLED monitor, you don't want screen burn, so I will sometimes turn off the monitor with this from like over there on the other side of my office, just until I remember to turn the whole PC off. But yeah, it does come with a remote if that's your kind of thing. Now for the price, I said this was $600. I got it on like a Black Friday deal. Originally, I think it's $900. I don't know if I really think it's worth that price. $600, I think it's definitely worth the price. Maybe somewhere in between would be a more fair price, but for $600, you can't say no. Now the desk that this is all sitting on is what is actually my recording desk. So this is the FlexiSpot E6. It's the desk with obviously a white tabletop, white legs. And I do have height adjustments on this thing. It comes with a bunch of preset options you can configure, but I mostly leave it at this height because I game on it. When I'm doing videos and stuff, I adjust it. But it's really nice being able to adjust it to a specific height for gaming because I feel like I can get my posture locked in. It's actually a little bit higher than I normally sit at when I'm just doing productivity stuff. The desk itself is fine. What I actually really like about it is it's a little bit deeper than an IKEA desk would be, so you can fit a lot more on it. And it's also a little bit thicker, so it feels a little bit more premium. I just like the wider or deeper desks, I guess. So honestly, I could even get a larger desk if I really wanted to, and I'd still be very happy with it. But in my opinion, this is a good in-between between an IKEA desk, which is way too thin, and something ultra specific to your desk setup where you'd have to buy a whole tabletop alone. Buying this as one package is the best option in my opinion. Now the PC that I have hooked up to this monitor is a iQnix Mini ITX build that I built 2 years ago. Has a 3060 Ti in it. And this PC is just an absolute beauty in my opinion. It is a Mini ITX build, so I only have 16 gigs of RAM in there. I have two 8 gig sticks. So that's something I really want to upgrade soon, is putting 16s in there. But other than that, this thing is beautiful. It's super compact. And as you can tell, there's nothing going on. It's just machined aluminum and this little single light in the front. So ultra minimal, which obviously fits the setup super well. The way that this PC works is actually really interesting. All of these panels are magnetic. That's why there's no screws or anything. So you could pop these off and then reach inside and pop off the two side panels to access all the components inside. But yeah, this thing's absolutely a gorgeous build that I love. I think it looks super good. Now hooked up to this PC are the Audio Engine A2 Plus speakers. These are the primary speakers that I've been using for this setup. If I'm getting really intense, obviously I'll plug in some headphones, but I've been trying to keep it as minimal as possible on the actual desk setup itself. So for now, we have these two speakers up there. These are interesting speakers because they have a ton of connection options. You can do hardwired, Bluetooth, USB, basically anything you'd need to be able to connect to these, you can. I just use them hardwired, but you can kind of choose or pick and choose however you want to connect them. And overall, I think they're just decent speakers for the price, and they look good in the setup, obviously, which is very important to me, as you've seen a lot of my comments. I always say this in my videos, but I wish I would have gotten these in black. I just think they would have looked a little bit cleaner. The white is fine, but I find it tends to get a little bit dirty. So if I was gonna change something about the speakers, it wouldn't be the speakers themselves. Honestly, it would just be the color that I chose. Okay, now the part that I'm most excited to talk about, the keyboard. This keyboard is something that's new to the setup. This is the Mode Sonnet 75% keyboard, and it is heavy. This is a heavy keyboard. So if you don't know about Mode, essentially this is the Rolls Royce of the keyboard world. These things are super high quality, full metal. They have weights inside. My Sonnet has the full foam kit, so it gets this really nice deep thok sound. Here, let's do this real quick. I mean, this keyboard is just absolutely perfect. It's very expensive. I think it was $500 or $600 for the entire setup, but it is my pride and joy right now. It has a copper accent on the top, and you can change that out for whatever you want. It has a green case with the black keycaps. So in my opinion, it's not too boring. I did not want to go with a fully black keyboard because to me, spending $500 or $600 on just a black keyboard seemed kind of bad. So I went with the green with the copper accent with the black keycaps. I think it looks good enough where it's still minimal and kind of clean, but it's something that still has a little bit of personality to it and kind of brings out something in the setup. So it's not just black and white purely. It does connect through USB-C, which the only downside, I wish it had a wireless option, but I probably would never use it anyways for gaming because you want that quick responsiveness, but it does add an extra cable to the setup, which kind of a bummer. The mouse that I'm using is still the G Pro wireless. If you've seen any of my previous videos on this thing, you know that I don't love this mouse, but I don't hate it. It's a good mouse for gaming. It has a lot of battery life that lasts for days or weeks at a time. I don't really love the lights and I keep turning them off and the software keeps turning them back on. So if you see them in my videos, that's why. Literally for recording these videos, I have to take the mouse and turn it off because the RGB keeps turning back on. Can't figure that out, but overall it's a fine mouse. I would say it's a great middle of the line mouse with good battery life at a cheap price that does not make any statement about what it is besides it's a mouse. It just looks like a black mouse that if you didn't know what a gaming mouse was, you'd think it was just a normal like computer mouse. And then last but not least, the actual desk mat. This is just from Amazon. I have an assortment of desk mats from Amazon. I think they're great. They're like 10 bucks. So I have like gray, black, brown, just a bunch of different things because I use them on my videos, but it's just like a leather $10 desk mat with no branding on it because I hate branding. I don't wanna sit there and stare at it every day. It has a little bit of a felt bottom too. But yeah, a really nondescript mouse pad for that. But that is gonna be it for the ultra minimal gaming setup. I hope you enjoyed it. I really spent a lot of time trying to make this look really good, but also be super functional. And I think, based on my Apex stats, it's pretty functional. So if you have any questions about it, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.